coming to you on a Tuesday morning. Here in Harmon, there seem to be a couple of dark clouds coming over from the eastern side of the island. You know the way island weather works. It's probably going to rain for about 3 minutes, so please, and it's going to go back to sunshine after that, so please be safe on the road if it does get a little bit slippery. One thing that is not slippery is good information from our friends at the Small Business Administration, and the man with the plan is always been Ken Lujan. We've been fortunate to talk to Ken several times over the last year on what the SBA is tirelessly doing to support the various small businesses. So, Ken, always good to see you, my friend. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me here, Jason. And I have a lot of good information to pass out to the community today.
So we are going to talk about this restaurant revitalization fund real quick. But I remember when the pandemic first started, Ken, you came on, I think it was like day 3 of the show when we first began. And the numbers and the statistics that you were putting out, were just absolutely staggering about the impact of the pandemic on small business. I believe you said, was it in the state of California? I think in the first week there was something like 130,000 claims filed.
That was the initial hour, actually, 1 hour.
In 1 hour, yeah, 130,000. I mean, I was just like blown away at that. Yeah. As far as the volume of work that the SBA proper has done, in addition to the local office and everything like that, has the amount of claims and advice and consulting that you've been doing, has that subsided?
To a certain degree, the PPP program actually has reduced somewhat. I think majority of the business population here in Guam has taken advantage of that program. But there are other programs such as our Restaurant Revitalization Fund that's coming out that basically is not a loan program. It's a grant opportunity money so they can get if they qualify under this program. So here's another round of funds that's available to those who were otherwise not eligible for the PPP program.
Okay, so when we talk about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, I'm just thinking, the first question that comes into my mind is, as far as the SBA is concerned, is a restaurant a restaurant a restaurant? I mean, of course, eateries and people that deal with food services, scale and scope can vary. You may be attached to a hotel. You may be like a little standalone, restaurant. You have like alfresco dining in addition to indoor, or do you even consider, the food trucks to be under that purview?
Sure, there's some eligibility requirements, but first off, let me just kind of explain what the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is, because oftentimes we commonly refer to RRF, so you can see here that acronym come about. But back in March 11, 2021, a couple months ago or last month, the American Rescue Plan Act, or the ARPA, became law, public law. And in which, at that point in time, they established the RRF, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. With that particular act, $28.6 billion was actually allocated for this financing program that authorized SBA to award the funds to recipients who qualify for this activity. Keep in mind that $28.6 billion is on a first-come, first-served basis. And it's going to be available only until such time that the appropriations do expire. Whatever's remaining in the budget would be dispersed, but it's on a first come first basis. The funds must be utilized, must be used for eligible uses no later than March 11, 2023. So they have adequate time to use the monies once they receive the monies from SBA. They have a 1-year time period, in other words, to use it. Now, we talked about the eligibility issues that you asked about. Now, who is eligible? Typically, of course, it says Restaurant Revitalization Fund. So the restaurants are eligible. Food stands, food trucks that we have here in Guam, we see a lot of them on Wednesday night up there by the Teason area. Those food stands and food trucks are eligible. Caterers who are catering right now to the schools, to the various areas they're also eligible. Bars, salons, lounges, and taverns also, they're eligible for the program. Here's another list of it: snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars. Bakeries are also eligible, but the bakeries have to at least produce 33% of their gross receipts on on-site sales. So in other words, they have to, if bakeries are actually having retail operations within its bakery, they must show that there's a 33% gross receipt that's comprised of those sales to be eligible for the program. Breweries, microbrewers, wineries, inns, licensed places that have beverage alcohol producers that are doing this for taste or sampling are eligible.
So
So there's a
is it fair to
variety
say, Ken,
of
that we can say like business establishments that have applied for and have been awarded a health license to serve food and drink, they should be eligible for the program?
they should be, again, depending upon the extent of activity they have on, relative to producing food or serving drinks. Because again, if you're wholesaling and not retailing as much, then of course the wholesale factor, you'd be more of a wholesaler than you are a retailer in that case, or service industry.
Sure.
So that's just a list of organizations that could actually be eligible for the program. Now, SBA does fund up to $5 million per location, so you can have multiple locations applying for it. We do $5 million up per location, not to exceed $10 million per applicant or any affiliate business. Now, there is a minimum dollar amount that we look at because we won't process any requests below $1,000. So minimum award for this program is $1,000 with a max up to $5 million. So there's a lot of money to distribute during that, for eligible companies. With $20.6 billion to go around there. Like any other grant fund opportunities, typically you'd have to be registered in SAM.gov. But for the RRF, this particular instance, you do not need to be registered in SAM.gov, nor do you need to have a DUNS number or case number. So that's a good thing for a lot of these companies, organizations that are they have different dialogues or different languages in there that are not familiar with the government process of getting a SAM, being registered in SAM.gov. So in this particular instance, this round of funding, they do not need to be registered in SAM.gov. Yeah. So who is ineligible? Entities are ineligible are local government operators, if you're operating as a government. Publicly traded companies, we even are not allowing companies who have closed their operations, permanently closed their operations, to be eligible for this program. Nonprofits are not eligible. And of course, if you're applying for what we call the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program, which is another grant opportunity, you would not be eligible for the RRF. So that's another thing that you need to consider as well. So you have either the grant, the Shutter Venue Operators Grant, or the RRF is what your choice is going to be.
Yeah. One thing that really stood out to me, Ken, was when you were saying earlier that recipients and approved claimants have, they've got until March 2023 to make use of the funds. So is this when someone applies for this, and assuming they get approved, is it a schedule that they're then put on to receive payment, or is it almost like how the PUA plan worked with the Department of Labor, where you would have to reapply on some sort of interval?
No, the amount that you apply for is going to be full disbursement on it.
Okay, one-time disbursement.
One-time disbursement, but you need to be accountable for that disbursement. In other words, you have to show to us also that you utilize these monies for the intended purpose of paying these expenses and so forth. So they have to show that because we have the responsibility going back to Congress and making sure that we gave the monies out for its appropriate use. But there's a whole 1-year period in which they can actually utilize the funds at that point in time. Any form of organization can avail themselves to the program. Sole proprietors could, partnerships could, C corporations, S corporations, B corporations, independent contractors can avail themselves to the program as well, as long as they qualify under the pretense of being in a restaurant serving food and drinks to a business establishment.
And you were saying that one of the conditions for that would render you ineligible was if you're attached to a publicly owned company, like say you're like your Burger Kings or your McDonald's and like companies like at that level, where their stock is publicly traded. But I would maybe naively assume that the majority of the restaurants like on Guam would be considered small businesses, correct?
Well, franchises are actually eligible for it. They must be in SBA's franchise registry, and
Okay.
if they're not too sure they are, they can contact my office to find out if that franchise that they have is registered in there. If it's not registered, then we need to see their agreement, their franchise agreement with the franchisor to make sure that it's an eligible business operations that we can probably provide funding to. So franchises are eligible for this program as well.
Okay. Given that, do
Ones who
you?
are not eligible,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Please
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Now, the other thing also is that if you're under bankruptcy, currently under bankruptcy or were bankrupt, then you would not be eligible for the program as well.
Okay.
So I know it's kind of difficult because during this duration of the pandemic, we've seen a lot of companies actually close down, a lot of companies declare bankruptcy. Now they come back and they said, I still want to open up my operations, and here's a way for me to get funding. Unfortunately, because you declared bankruptcy, we're not able to provide you any assistance because you now became ineligible.
Yeah, because one of the I guess we can call it a subgenre of restaurants that you were saying was like the catering operation, and I remember, I believe I spoke with you about this, was when we said the pandemic really first started rolling into high gear last year. Was catering is such a big part of Guam because of the christenings and the weddings and the funerals, and the catering services here do so much business, and they just basically said, we may not have necessarily closed our business or completely scuttled the operation, but we're indefinitely suspended. In that case, would a company still be applicable? It's
sure.
Like we're still around.
Yeah,
we're just not doing. We're possibly still paying our taxes. We're just not in operations at the moment.
Right, and that's still eligible for that. Some of them may have, because they had employees. Some of them may have applied for the PPP program to protect their employees' salary. And so one of the caveats within this program is that if you had a PPP loan, you have to subtract your total amount that you're asking for, subtract that dollar amount from the total. So in other words, if you're asking for $100,000 and you had a $50,000 PPP, you would only get the $50,000 remaining as a funding source.
Sure.
So you'd have to subtract the PPP, and that's for the reason that that's like a duplication of program funds. So the SBA provided PPP funding, the SBA provided shutter venue operators grant, and now we're providing the RRF. We don't want any duplication of tapping into similar program funds too at the same time. Mm-hmm. So when you do your calculations as you're applying, you'd have to take your total funding needs minus your PPP dollar amount that you receive from SBA as well.
Mm-hmm. Given that, Ken, and given the fact that restaurants are such complex businesses to run, and like you said, if you're a traditional wholesaler or a retailer, you can probably get by maybe running the storefront with maybe one or two staffers on duty, and you can have like a reduced staff. I mean, if you're running a restaurant, you've got front of house staff, you've got people doing the kitchen, you've got staff cleaning and maybe taking orders and stuff like that. I mean, it's a big complicated orchestra to deal with. What would you think, and maybe with the stats that you have and everything like that, how many applications are you anticipating receiving now that the word is official and people are able to avail of this opportunity?
Yeah, we are anticipating a large number of applications. As a matter of fact, each SB district office has been tasked to provide to their staffing personnel on a 60-day TDY assignment to help facilitate the RRF funding here. Mm-hmm. So in other words, like one of my staff is going to be tasked for 60 days to work on the RRF, strictly in the RRF, because of the large amount of applications we anticipate that we're going to receive, because we've been getting a lot of calls and a lot of cries to Congress that the restaurants have really been hurt a lot, and obviously they've been the one most impacted for the longest time. So now that this program has come out, we anticipate a lot more applications in it. which also provides, this funding also provides a lot more flexibility than our PPP program, because with the PPP, basically it was geared towards protecting the paycheck of the employee. In this case, with the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, you can have a lot of the use of funds towards a lot of expenses, such as your business maintenance expense, construction of outdoor seating, because a lot of companies, restaurants had to create a canopy or a location outside their brick and mortar location, and that's expensive when you start putting the plexiglasses in between tables and so forth. So these are things that they're doing. And we also realized that these restaurants had to take on debt during the time that they were actually closed. And so these funds would actually pay for any business mortgage obligations or any business service debt, both principal and interest at the same time too. So the funds are allowing a lot of flexibility on the use of how it can be used towards expenses, which gives them a lot of flexibility to use that money for that. So I encourage a lot of the businesses out there to gather their financial information, gather all the documentation that they have, and then really put together a package where it's going to be useful for paying prior debt as well as future debt that they can probably use then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and certainly our friends in the restaurant and food services business in the last year, they've had to get very, very creative, take on a lot of debt, as you said, and just operate in a way that they never anticipated to keep their heads above water. But certainly your agency and the assistance and the advice that you're giving and everything like that is really doing these honest companies who are really trying to provide a valuable service, like an immense lift and everything. So I'm coming up on the top of the hour, Ken, so I got to let you go, but I know we are going to get together later because Nestor is going to feature you and Mary Rhodes from the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association on this landmark news and how it affects our restaurants. So in closing, could you give the contact information if people listening right now and watching would like to get in touch with you for more information? Sure.
If they want to apply, SBA has created a platform. It's at restaurants.sba.gov. They're also having a point of sale vendors. They're looking at possible POS providers that would provide that. Unfortunately, we don't have it here in Guam, but you can certainly do this online. Or you can contact the telephone number. It's area code 844-279-8898, and that's where you can use the telephone to apply. The only problem with that, it may take longer for you for processing. So the best bet for you to do is go to restaurants.sba.gov and then you can apply for there. You can also go to sba.gov/restaurants, and you can download the application sample there, and you can also download the guides that you can get your information there as well. So take advantage of it, or you can contact me in my office at 472-7277, or email me. Send me an email at kenneth.lujan@sba.gov. I'll be more than happy to help you, or at least provide you information as to where to get the where to apply and so forth. So thank you for having me here, and this is a new opportunity for our restaurant or industry, our food and drink industry, to avail themselves of the funds that are available now. For sure. And Ken, I know I can speak on behalf of all the restaurants and the very hellish atmosphere they've had to deal with the last 10 months. Or last 14 months now, I should say. And it's great that they have, an avenging angel like you and your colleagues over at the SBA having their back in this really rough time. All right. Thanks, Jason. And let me know if there's any information you need. All right, can do, will do. Thanks so much, Ken.
There you go. The avenging angel of small businesses, Ken. You got to come on with a cape next time, Ken, and a little avenging angel mask.
I need something red.
Yeah, something red. We got it. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate
thanks so
it.
much, Ken. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Yeah, and again, Nestor LaConta, we are going to record tomorrow's edition of In Full Zoom, where he is going to completely deep dive into Ken's perspective on this, and then also what Mary has with the GHRA and this. So make sure to look for that. That's going to be on YouTube real quick.
Right. At 7:59, we are KUAM